Hey Wargamers, as Games Workshop starts to trickle out the previews of the new Tau Codex, I want to take a moment to talk about one of the Empire's most downtrodden pieces of equipment, that is the plasma rifle. Now, I also have a giveaway for you today, so make sure you stick around for that. Originally, and I guess still, it's designed to be a marine killer, both on the tabletop end and the fluff. It's supposed to be something that just punches through power armor, takes out the gooey insides of a Space Marine, and that's about it. Whereas all the other weapon choices are supposed to have other strengths, other applications. The plasma rifle is really for that anti-marine approach. And historically, it's been pretty good at that. So looking at 3rd, 4th, 5th, even 6th and 7th edition, you had plasma rifles as one of your go-to choices on things like crisis suits. Plasma rifle missile pod loadouts were common and, not a bad choice. You saw them, on the tabletop. But right now, ever since 8th edition hit, plasma rifles are awful. They're basically a trap pick, meaning that if you are picking it, it's not because it does something, better in some niche scenario. It's just that it's just bad. It's worse than every other option you could take. And so there's no reason why you should take plasma rifles, right? Like, no matter what you're trying to do, there's always a better option. And so plasma rifles are a dead choice. They're a trap pick, and they're not something that make for good game design or a feel-good experience because of that. Now, Games Workshop has been pretty sheepish on changing weapon profiles for the Tau Codex historically, right? We see adjustments here and there, but generally, when a new codex comes out, the profiles stay pretty consistent. Of course, the big change was with the transition to 8th edition. Everything got new profiles, and that's really when the plasma rifle shit the bed, right? And so now is a little bit different than the status quo. In 9th edition, it seems like Games Workshop is giving weapon profiles a serious look, at least as indicated by some of these previews that we've had for the pulse weapons. So we had that preview for pulse carbines and pulse rifles, showing that both of them were tweaked in pretty meaningful ways. And so that gives me hope that perhaps a larger array of Tau weaponry will get a serious look, and perhaps now is the time that plasma rifles can really step back into light and become something that has a purpose, something that you will see on the tabletop once again. Now, I wouldn't blame you if you don't have any recollection of what the profile of a plasma rifle is, just because they don't exist on the tabletop, right? So they're strength 6, AP -3, 1 damage, range 24 inches with rapid fire. So you get 2 shots at 12 inches, but otherwise it's 1 shot up to 24 inches. And so you can see how this still has much of the original intent of the plasma rifle, right? It's strength 6, that's going to wound well against Marines. It's AP -3, that's going to do well against a 3+ save. It's 1 damage, which, against Firstborn Marines used to be sufficient, but now 1 damage is vastly insufficient to take out a Marine. And then you have the 24-inch range rapid fire, which is historically how they function. That hasn't changed since their inception. So, you can see how it has that flavor. It just doesn't have that actual impact that you would want to see. And so this means that plasma rifles are basically outclassed by every other weapon option that you might want to take. So fusion blasters are extremely efficient, or at least relatively efficient, I should say. Maybe not extremely efficient, but certainly relatively more efficient than plasma rifles at taking out some of these Marine profiles or higher. Cyclic ion blasters may not always be as efficient as fusion blasters, but they have more flexibility, right? You can choose the number, you get a higher number of shots, and you can choose the profile to augment that strength based on the target that you're shooting at. So cyclic ion blasters give you a lot of flexibility, and that's really where they shine, and why you see them so often is because of that flexibility going into like a tournament scenario. Plasma rifles, though, relative to those two, have no niche, right? If you're looking to take out Marines consistently, you're going to go with the Fusion Blaster. If you're looking for something that's going to be able to do a variety of tasks, take out infantry, take out larger profile targets, you're going to go with cyclic ion blasters. And so there's no wiggle room there for the plasma rifle to exist. So we really want to find a way to give plasma a niche again. Let's make plasma okay-ish again, right? It doesn't have to mean that it's overpowered or necessarily the best choice given the meta, right? Like if the meta is dominated by AdMech or Drukhari, then having a Marine killer isn't necessarily going to be the best choice from a meta perspective, but simply from a design stance, let's make plasma rifles not a trap pick. Let's make them have a purpose, and it's up to you whether or not you want to use that purpose, but let's give them a role to play instead of just having them be clearly a bad choice, right? Like there shouldn't be any choices that are just always bad. And so let's make that not the case, right? Let's make them okay-ish. They don't have to be great. Let's just make them okay. And so given the relatively simple changes that they have made to pulse carbines and pulse rifles, I think if we were to see the plasma rifle addressed, it's going to be by tweaking just one or two numbers in the profile, right? It's not going to end up having a vastly different role. It's not going to have some crazy special rules associated to it. At least I don't think so. That seems pretty unlikely. And so what are some simple tweaks we can make? What are some numbers we can bump one way or another to make the plasma rifle have a niche? One of those things that they can do is just increase the range by 6 inches up to 30. And this is something that we see already in Farsight's high-intensity plasma rifle. And so I think, it's within the realm of possibility that we might see that here as well. And of course, you could always bump the high intensity up to 36 or something if you're worried about overlap there. But if we put this up to 30 inches, yes, that allows the plasma rifle to touch targets at a greater range, but more importantly, it allows the plasma rifle to double tap at a larger range as well. And it passes some critical threshold here, right? At a 24-inch range, you double tap at 12 inches, which of course is close enough to be charged. But at 15 inches, you can stay just outside of charge range, assuming they don't move. And that's useful, right? That gives you a little bit extra breathing room in order to, survive or avoid a charge. And for Tau, that's, of course, a big deal, right? Right now, one of the biggest issues for Tau is that they can't effectively deter an opponent from rolling up on them when they're sitting on an objective. And so the longer range here is valuable in that way that it allows a more effective bubble around an objective where an opponent isn't necessarily going to be able to just come right up as easily as they were before. Is the plasma rifle the only thing that needs to change in this regard? Absolutely not. It's a tiny drop in the bucket, but maybe that additional range would help here. Of course, if we were to increase the range more, then we would have even larger benefit. So, if we went to 36 or 48 inches, yeah, that'd be great. But I think that really starts stepping on the toes of some other weapon choices, namely the missile pod. The missile pod, has more shots, but I wouldn't want the plasma rifle to compete too strongly with the missile pod in that long range role. So 30 inches seems like a fairly good compromise there. The other thing that we could bring over from the high intensity is increasing damage to 2. And this is really the more critical of the two. Having longer range facilitates the application of this other improvement. And so if you had to pick one, perhaps, just going with damage 2 would be sufficient. But certainly improving the damage of plasma rifles to 2 instead of just 1 makes a huge difference. It keeps it in line with the Marine profile. So Marines having 2 wounds now as opposed to just 1 really is important in this regard, right? Like it keeps it on theme, on message, right? It keeps it on message. And it means that the plasma rifle then offers more reliable damage as well. If we look at other weapons that would potentially compete in this niche, they don't have the same reliability, right? Having a flat 2 damage is super useful. We see that in the heavy burst cannon, that having 2 damage there means a ton. So having 2 damage on a plasma rifle means a lot here too, right? It allows you to consistently do damage and take out those multi-wound models much more effectively. The high AP, relatively high AP, combined with that 2 damage stat, means that the plasma rifle, if everything else stays the same, which of course it won't, becomes one of the most efficient, if not the most efficient choice for toughness 4 and toughness 5 models in rapid fire range. So if you can get within rapid fire range using a 2 damage plasma rifle, suddenly that is, generally the best option. If we're thinking about crisis suits with the veteran upgrade, or some other new rule that allows them to hit on 3s, they're gangbusters. They're doing really well. Like if we compare the points efficiency of a veteran crisis suit with 2 damage plasma rifles compared to the same suit with cyclic ion or with fusion, the relative point efficiency between the plasma rifle suit and either of those two can be twofold, if not slightly more. So really this gives the plasma rifle a really well-defined niche compared to those other weapon choices, and makes plasma rifles on, let's say, a crisis suit, something that could be very useful in this role. So that very simple change, moving from damage 1 to damage 2, makes a huge difference for the plasma rifle and clearly gives it a role against toughness 4, toughness 5 targets. We still see that the Fusion Blaster is the more efficient choice, going for higher profile targets. So if we're looking at higher toughness or more wounds, then having the Fusion Blaster is better. And that makes sense, right? That's the way it should be. The Ion still gives more flexibility, still gives you the same benefits it did before, but now it's just not the best choice for toughness 4 or toughness 5, which I think is fine. Missile pods still offer you the best range. And then the high intensity plasma rifle that Farsight still has better AP. So we're not taking away his special weapon. He can still have that extra AP, or, like I said, you can always tweak his weapon a little bit too if you're worried about overlapping here too much. And then all the other crisis weapons, they're really just meant for volume of fire or, avoiding line of sight in the case of the AFP, or just, putting out hits in the case of the Flamer. So burst cannon, AFP, Flamer, those things were not really a major issue here in terms of overlap to begin with. So we're not really worried about them. And all the other weapons, though, they're still have their role. They still have a place to still have a role to play in the army. And so we've arrived at this position here where we haven't really taken much away from those other weapon choices, but more importantly, we've given the plasma rifle something to live for. And so I think these are really simple and easy changes that GW hopefully will make. They'll make a huge difference in the internal balance of the Codex. Again, assuming that the points are appropriate given these changes and everything like that. And if they do that, then my long-lost, beloved plasma rifle will have a role on the tabletop once again. I hope we see something like this, but only time will tell. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think that this is totally insufficient? Do you think plasma rifles need to go in a different direction? Or do you think this is about right? Or do you think that plasma rifles are just fine the way they are? Let me know. We can have a conversation about it. And if you do that, you'll be entered to win in this giveaway that I'm doing that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So I have 5 character models from the Heresy Lab Kickstarter I was involved with a while ago, still kicking around. And they can be yours. Yeah. They can be yours. Anywhere in the world, I will ship it to you if you put a comment down below and I pick you as the random winner, which I will do within 7 days. So 7 days from now, I'll pick a winner and I'll ship these models to you. Well, I would say no questions asked, but I'll ask where I should ship them. So aside from that, right? All you have to do is put a comment down below and you will be entered to do that. Like I said, thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I will also mention that I am extending the Invasive Wargaming model sale. So if you didn't win in the last giveaway and you still want to pick one of those up at a discount, you can do that. There is a link in the description below if you want to order directly from me. I also opened up an Etsy shop just because I know sometimes people like having that more official storefront to purchase through. So if you want to do that, you can hop over to Etsy and do that there too. Either way works. And so thanks for watching, and as always, happy wargaming. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. A while ago I made my own miniature, and if you too want to be the proud owner of an Invasive Wargaming model, you can check out the link in the description below. Down there you will also find links for the Invasive Wargaming Discord server and the Invasive Wargaming Patreon. Really, this channel wouldn't be possible without the support of my patrons. Special thanks to Marcy, A Little Pink Monster, Ben B. Jones, Durza, Ever Keller, Robbie Goodwin, Jose Gomez, Ruger, Drew Pratley, Michael Byrne, Zealous Brimstone, Scott Heater, Stephen Cowan, Jared Egler, Chris Kessler, and Tao Oswell.